Ladies and gentlemen, he's a child of God, a husband, NRA conservative, radical right-wing supervillain, and Twitter rock star. American by birth, Texan by choice, and a badass by nature. He's the owner of TomO'Halloran.com, O'HalloranMedia.com, and PatriotRadio.net. Please welcome Tom O'Halloran.
Welcome back. Welcome to Patriot Radio with Tom O'Halloran. I am your host, the same Tom O'Halloran. I'm broadcasting tonight from my underground bunker deep in Arcantana, Brascarado, to educate, irritate, and agitate. And folks, if you ain't agitated by the time this hour's over, you need to crank up the volume because you just ain't hearing me. Tonight we're going to cover a number of news stories from around the country. If you'd like to join the conversation, please call in at 888-909-1050. If you want to listen on your phone, the number is 832-999-1050. You can also listen to live stream on your computer at patriotradioshow.com. Again, my name is Tom O'Halloran. You can follow me on Twitter at TPO_hisself. My main blog is TomO'Halloran.com. When you get there, be sure to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Spreaker, and any other social media you like. While you're there, please follow my editor as well, Veronica Coffin. She does most of the heavy lifting on the blogs these days, and without her doing that, I couldn't do this. So please follow her. Her follow button is at the bottom of each and every post. I'm on the air 3 nights a week now, so be sure to catch my show tomorrow night as well. Same time, 7 p.m. Wednesday evenings for the same show, Patriot Radio with Tom O'Halloran. On Friday nights, I do a different show. I do Jihad on America. Same time, 7 p.m. Pacific. In this show, we on a weekly basis cover the Islamists in America, who they are, what they want, and why you should be afraid. We continue peeling back the mask of Islam as well. We look at what is being done in the name of Islam, both here and abroad. I do the news about Islam abroad because it's a glimpse into the future of America as Islam grows here in the homeland. If you did not catch my show on the Muslim Brotherhood or my show on Islam is not a religion, please go to PatriotRadioshow.com and listen to those. They'll both give you a solid foundation as to what's going on in this country and for what we build on every week. Keep abreast of my shows, listen to the live stream, as well as the archives of shows you may have missed, all at PatriotRadioshow.com. I'd like to thank my sponsor for tonight, noted columnist and author Colin Flaherty, who wrote the book White Girl Bleed a Lot, the story of racial violence in America and how the media ignore it. We're going to start off tonight picking up where we started off last week, and we'll continue to do until we get through this list. There's a article on my blog, 109 articles of impeachment against Obama. There's 109 reasons this man should be impeached, and for which reasons he could be impeached. We're going to cover 5 of them every show that we do, and we're picking up with number 6, betrayal of Arizona. Obama brought a federal lawsuit against a sovereign state, Arizona, seeking to protect its citizens from the threat of mass illegal immigration. Obama's not protecting the border. Arizona stepped up to protect their own border, their own citizens, and was sued by Obama and his co-racist Eric Holder. 7, Obama's failure to enforce U.S. law, the Defense of Marriage Act. He stripped America of its moral base by his support for homosexuality and the attack on marriage between a man and a woman. Obama allows the Department of Justice to refuse to enforce the Defense of Marriage Act. 8. Support of an inept and incompetent Attorney General, the same Eric Holder, who has failed to prosecute voter intimidation cases, the new Black Panther Party, initiated a dangerous gun smuggling program, Fast and Furious, which resulted in the deaths of one of our own law enforcement agents. Obama allowed Fast and Furious to occur, which allowed hundreds of Mexican nationals and border agent Brian Terry to be murdered with illegal arms given out by the ATF and the Department of Justice. 9. Increasing the regulatory burden on American business through bypassing the legislative process with his executive branch agencies such as the EPA and the Food and Drug Administration. He is choking business. He is choking the farmers. He is choking anybody that has land. If you have a pond on your land, they're coming in to regulate you, which regulation means fines for noncompliance, and sometimes they try to take your land away for failing to comply. 10. Failure to take steps necessary to secure our borders and stem the flow of illegal immigration, termed as repel invasions. In our United States Constitution, in Article 1, Section 8, and Article 4, Section 4, Obama has failed to defend U.S. soil in Mexico or in Arizona as Mexican troops bring illegals and drugs into the United States, crossing the border doing so. This is a direct violation of Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, which Obama swore to uphold and defend. And we'll be talking about the swarms coming across the border in just a little bit. Coming up next, Obama, while he's bending over backwards to make sure these illegal aliens have everything they need, from beds and food stamps and education and TVs where they're being held until they can be distributed, sexual training, condoms, anything that these illegal aliens need on the taxpayer's back, they are getting it. Meanwhile, your sons, your daughters, your husbands, your moms are working in the service all around the world. One of the duties of the Department of Defense is to make sure that when they travel, not to a combat zone obviously, but when they travel for duty elsewhere, we ship their vehicles for them so that when they get over there, they have transportation and life can continue as normal as possible. Well, in 2012, Obama's Pentagon staff negotiated a contract with International Auto Logistics, IAL, to handle all of these automobiles and all of these shippings. It was set up in 2012. As of now, there's about 6,300 cars accepted. This contract was awarded, by the way, the company had no office. This company was set up for this contract. Only 2,000 cars have been delivered where they're supposed to go. The rest of them are sitting in shopping malls, vacant lots, gathering dust. They're being shipped to the wrong places. It's all done with paperwork. There's no way for the military to find out where their vehicles are at. And when push comes to shove, you look all the way down and see what goes on. The chairman of IAL's parent company, IAP Group, the chairman is Park Sang-koon. He's also the CEO of a car company with production facilities in North Korea. Communist North Korea, our enemies, the guys that are setting up missiles to aim and shoot at us, the ones that are threatening to shoot at us. Not only is this guy an informal spokesman for the communist Kim Jong-un, but he's also a honorary citizen with the DPRK, and the Obama administration is already aware of this information. How could he not be? This stuff is easily Googleable. Why aren't these cars being shipped by American companies? We're not only sending the jobs overseas, but we're making the profits go to a company that was set up just in time to get this bid, which probably wasn't even bid out. and it's to a communist country. I can't do business with North Korea because they're an enemy. Why can Obama do this? What is he paying them favors for? It's criminal. It's another reason. There should be 110 reasons to impeach this faker. Folks, we got some bills to pay. Stick around. We got a whole lot going on today, and we got something special coming up at the bottom of the hour, so please stick around.
Your voice, your opinions, heard round the world at www.kcaaradio.com. The station that leaves no listener behind, AM 1050 KCAA.
Tom O'Halloran.
We'll put a boot in your ass. It's the American way. All brought to you courtesy of the red, white, and blue.
I do appreciate you tuning in and staying with us through the show. I know there's a lot of options out there, and I appreciate each and every pair of ears. I want to take a little time now to talk about this illegal immigration. All of a sudden, we just had a swoon, swarms, massive amounts. We went from 5,000 illegal aliens coming across this time last year, and we're up to like 65,000, and they're mostly kids and very, very pregnant women, to the tune of 65,000. We're nearing this. It's not quite there yet. I think we're in the high 40s. And everybody thought, wow, you know, Obama must have been on the phone telling people to come up or something, because this is huge. Well, we have some documentation now, and then they're coming across kids by themselves. Some of these kids 5 to 10 years old. Entire villages are emptying of children down in Central America. Yeah, Central America. This isn't just Mexico. They're coming all the way from this down south. They're coming up here. They're overwhelming the system. They're being put on a army base here in Texas. They're being deported, and not deported, but taken from Texas, sent over to Arizona. Obama's doing that just to tick off Jan Brewer in Arizona for her fight against the illegals. They're also being put on buses, taken across the country to different cities. They're being put on planes, flown into different areas. The areas aren't even being warned in advance that these kids are coming. All of a sudden, a small town of 1,500 last week had a bus with 70 people, 70 kids coming in. They don't have the resources to handle this. They don't have anything. All of a sudden, the local city, the states have to start putting together their resources to handle all of these illegal aliens. And these are even more high-intensive care because they're kids. They don't have medical staff at the border to test these. They're coming across with scabies, not malaria, but several other infectious diseases. They're a mess. They're a mess. Well, it turns out that the Obama administration actually ran a couple of ads. Escort services for unaccompanied alien children, read one of them. Escort services for unaccompanied children. Another ad read something similar. Seeking bids for vendor contract to handle unaccompanied alien children. This contract was actually let in January, before these swarms ever started coming across. He knew this was going to happen. He was behind it. He made it happen, whether he told the governors of the states they came from or whether it was just through the grapevine, just like he's been advertising the EBT card on Telemundo in Mexico, saying, don't worry that you can't afford it or you can't get a card because you're not a citizen. If you come into America, we'll give you an EBT card. He's bribing them to come across. That is nothing but a bribe. because he wants their votes. He wants to overburden the welfare system, which is part of the Cloward-Piven strategy, which he taught in college. You get so many people in the system, whatever system it is, that the system can't support it, and it crashes, and you replace the system with whatever it is that you're wanting to put in. So he's getting these people to come up here. They're being put in these great big warehouses, given anything that they want, whether they're gay, straight, or what. If they need condoms, they get condoms. Boys kept with boys, boys kept with girls. They're all mixed in. The girls are trying to get pregnant because they know that they'll be here for probably at least a year before they have a hearing to get deported, if they ever have a hearing. And they know that if they get a baby before they leave, they probably won't have to leave. So they're giving them everything they need on your dime. Meanwhile, the DOJ, back to Eric Holder again, the racist in chief, Eric Holder is funding private lawyers for illegal aliens to argue against the government lawyers. So now we're paying for the government lawyers to try to deport them, and the government is also paying for civilian private lawyers to fight the government lawyers to let these illegals stay. He is ruining the country every which way he can. And now he's got 65,000. In the next month or so, it will reach 65. It is expected to reach 65,000 unaccompanied kids roaming the country. We can't get adopted, the kids that we have in this country. We can't keep track of the American youth that are in foster care, that are in adoption places, that are being watched in orphanages. These kids, these teens are walking away and getting out on the street. They're turning to prostitution. They're getting into drugs. They're being picked up and sold in sex trades. And now we're importing 65,000, most with no ID. They get them to a destination. They put them on a bus and send them to a city where they say they have relatives. We pay for the bus tickets. They go off to some foreign city. Nobody has a record or track of where these people are going or how to get back in touch with them. If you think you do, just remember Obamacare. What a mess. This government can't run a lemonade stand. And now we have 65,000 unaccompanied children in this country. And Obama doesn't do background checks on any employees or any contractors. So if there's a rapist out there, a pedophile, he can easily just get a contract to transport 50 youths 5 to 10 years old on a bus from Arizona or Texas, take them up to Maryland or New York or wherever that shipment is supposed to go, stopping at motels for a few nights on the way, and he can have his way with these kids. And they're not going to say a thing because they'll be terrified. Even without this new mess at the border, women, children coming across are raped on a regular basis. They are murdered on a regular basis by the very people they're paying $5,000 to bring them across. They're raped because they can get away with it. The illegals aren't going to complain. They can't complain because they could be deported. Now we're dealing with 5- and 10-year-old kids with no parents to watch them, coming up from Central and South America. If you think there isn't massive child abuse, both coming up to the country and in the country, even with the foster care system that we've got, even with Child Protective Services doing what they do, there's still child abuse massive in this country. Massive. Here in Texas, we just got a report that the Child Protective Services people only spend 26% of the time with the people they're supposed to be protecting. The rest of the time, they're in the office they're running around driving, doing this, or filling out reports or whatever. Only 25% of the time are they spending with the people they're supposed to be protecting. Now we're turning contracts over to, heck, the contractor that got the car shipment thing was from North Korea. What kind of a pedophile? Pick up your phones, call your congressman, call your senators, call your state reps. This has got to stop. We have to hold these people in detention centers until we can round them up, find out where they go, and send them back home. We cannot handle, the government cannot handle another 65,000 children, and we don't have the money for it. We don't have the resources, the people, and all they intend to do is try to reunite them with their parents that may be here so that nobody will have to go back, or hold on to the kids somewhere in a home and find their parents in Central and South America and then bring their parents across too. All they're looking for is Democratic votes, and they think they can get it from the Hispanics that are here and from the Hispanics that they're bringing across. This is criminal. He is not defending our Constitution. He is wiping his butt with it, and it's got to stop. The man has got to be impeached. Folks, we got some more bills to pay. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Missed something today, yesterday, last week? Check out our podcasts at www.kcaaradio.com. AM 1050 KCAA. We leave no listener behind.
Tom O'Halloran, holding the line against tyranny from Washington, D.C.
I am America. One voice, united we stand. I am America. One hope to heal our land. There is still work that must be done. I will not rest until we've won. I am America.
Thank you. I appreciate you sticking around. I'm going to do something a little different tonight. I'd like to share an essay with you. I'm not fond of reading online or on the air, but I've had this essay on my website, and now it's my blog, but I've had it for about 6 years, and I think it's about 12 or 15 years old. But it's one of the most thoughtful essays that I've ever read about guns. And I really wanted to share it with you tonight, so please bear with me. This is Ethics from the Barrel of a Gun: What Bearing Weapons Teaches About the Good Life. Essay is by Eric S. Raymond. Historian J.G. Pocock said, "The bearing of arms is the essential medium through which the individual asserts both his social power and his participation in politics as a responsible moral being." There's nothing like having your finger on the trigger of a gun to reveal who you really are. Life or death in one twitch. The ultimate decision, with the ultimate price for one careless or bad choice. It's kind of an acid test, an initiation to know that there is lethal force in your hand, and all the complexities and ambiguities of moral choice have fined down to a single action: fire or not. In truth, we're called upon to make life or death situations or choices more often than we generally realize. Every political choice is ultimately reduces to a choice about when and how to use lethal force, because the threat of lethal force is what makes politics and law more than a game out of which anyone could opt out at any time. But most of our life and death choices are abstract. Their costs are diffused and distant. We are insulated from those costs by layers of institutions we have created to specialize in controlled violence: the police, prisons, armies, and to direct that violence, which is the legislatures and the courts. As such, the lessons those choices teach seldom become personal to most of us. Nothing most of us will ever do combines the moral weight of a life or death choice with the concrete immediacy of the moment, as thoroughly as consciously handling the instruments deliberately designed to kill. As such, There are lessons both merciless and priceless to be learned from bearing arms. Lessons which are not merely instructive to the intellect, but transformative to one's whole emotional, reflexive, and moral character. The first of these lessons is this: it all comes down to you. No one's fingers on the trigger but your own. All the talk in your head, all the emotions in your heart, all the experiences of your past, these things may inform your choice, but they can't move your finger. All the socialization and rationalization and justification in the world, all the approval and disapproval of your neighbors, none of these things can pull the trigger either. They can change how you feel about the choice, but only you can actually make the choice. Only you, only here, only now. Fire or not. The second lesson is this: never count on being able to undo your choice. If you shoot someone through the heart, dead is dead. You can't take it back. There are no do-overs. Real choice is like that. You make it, you live with it. Or you die with it. The third lesson: the universe doesn't care about motives. If your gun has an accidental discharge or pointed in an unsafe direction, the bullet will kill just as dead as if you'd been aiming at the shot. It doesn't mean to I didn't mean to persuade others that you are less than likely to repeat your behavior, but it won't bring a corpse back to life. There are hard lessons, but necessary ones. Stated in print, they may seem trivial or obvious, but ethical maturity consists in a significant part of knowing these things, not merely at the level of intellect, but at the level of emotion, experience, and reflex. And nothing teaches these things like repeated confrontation with life or death choices in the grave knowledge of the consequences of failure. The psychological insight both illuminates and is reinforced by the one central fact of U.S. history that is usually considered purely political, and even, wrongly, thought to be of interest only to Americans. The founding fathers of the United States believed and wrote that the bearing of arms was essential to the character and dignity of a free people. For this reason, they wrote the Second Amendment in the Bill of Rights, which reads, "The right to bear arms shall not be infringed." Whether one agrees or disagrees with it, the Second Amendment is usually interpreted in these latter days as an axiom of and about political character, an expression of Republican political thought, a prescription for equilibrium of power in which the armed people are at least equal in might to the organized forces of government. It is all of these things, but it's something more, because the founders regarded political character and individual ethical character as inseparable. They had a clear notion of the individual virtues necessary collectively to a free people. They did not merely regard the habit of bearing arms as a political virtue, but as a direct promoter of personal virtue. The founders had been successfully armed revolutionaries. Every one of them had repeated confrontation with life or death choices, in grave knowledge of the consequences of failure. They desired that the people of their infant nation should always cultivate that kind of ethical maturity, the keen sense of individual moral responsibility that they had personally learned from using lethal force in the defense of their liberty. Accordingly, firearms were prohibited only to those intended to be kept powerless and infantilized. American gun prohibitions have their origins in racist legislation designed to disarm slaves and black freedmen. The wording of that legislation repays study. It was designed not merely to deny the blacks the political power of arms, but to prevent them from aspiring to the dignity of free men. The dignity of free men, and as we would properly call today, also free women. That is a phrase that bears thinking on. As the 20th century draws to a close, it sounds archaic. Our discourse has nearly lost the concept that the health of the res publica is founded on a private virtue. Too many of us contemplate a president who preaches family values and responsibility to the nation while committing adultery and perjury and don't see a contradiction. But Thomas Jefferson's question posed in his inaugural address of 1801 still sings. If a man cannot be trusted with the government of himself, how can he be trusted with the government of others? And this is where the history and politics circle back to ethics and psychology, because the dignity of a free man consists in being competent to govern oneself and in knowing down to the core of oneself that one is so competent. And that is where ethics and psychology bring us back to the bearing of arms. For causality runs both ways here. The dignity of a free man is what makes one ethically competent to bear arms. And the act of bearing arms promotes, by teaching, its hard and subtle lessons, the inner qualities that compose the dignity of a free man. It's not always so, of course. There's a 3% or so of psychotics, drug addicts, criminal deviants who are incapable of dignity of free men. Arms in the hands of such as these do not promote virtue, but are merely instruments of tragedy and destruction. But so too are cars, kitchen knives, bricks. The ethically incompetent readily and effectively find other means to destroy and terrorize when denied arms. And when civilian arms are banned, they more readily find helpless victims. But for the other 97%, the bearing of arms functions not merely as an assertion of power, but as a fierce and redemptive discipline. When sudden death hangs in inches from your right hand, you become much more careful, more mindful, and much more peaceful in your heart, because you know that if you are thoughtless or sloppy in your actions, succumb to your bad temper, people will die. Too many of us have come to believe ourselves incapable of this discipline. We fall prey to the sick belief that we're all psychopaths or incompetents under the skin. We've been taught to imagine ourselves armed only as villains, doomed to succumb to our own worst nature and kill a loved one in a moments of careless rage, or to end our days holed up in a mall listening to police bullhorns as some SWAT sniper draws a bead. But it's not so. To believe this is to ignore the actual statistics and the generative patterns of weapons crimes. Virtually never, writes criminologist Don B. Cates, virtually never are murderers the ordinary law-abiding people against whom gun bans are aimed. Almost without exception, murderers are the extreme aberrants with lifelong histories of crime, substance abuse, and psychopathology, mental retardation, and or irrational violence against those around them, as well as other hazardous behavior, such as automobile and gun accidents. To believe one's incompetent to bear arms is, therefore, to live in corroding and almost always needless fear of oneself. In fact, to affirm one's self a moral coward, a state further from the dignity of a free man, would be rather hard to imagine. It is as a way of exercising this demon, of reclaiming for ourselves that dignity and courage and ethical self-confidence of free men, that the bearing of personal arms is ultimately most important. This is the final ethical lesson of bearing arms, that the right choices are possible, and the ordinary judgment of ordinary men and women is sufficient to make them. We can truly embrace our power and our responsibility to make life or death decisions rather than fearing both. We can accept our ultimate responsibility for our own actions. We can know, not just intellectually, but in the sinew of our experience, that we are fit to choose. And not only can we must. The founding fathers of the United States understood why. If we fail this test, we fail not only in private virtue, but consequently in our capacity to make public choices. Rudderless, lacking in an earned and grounded faith in ourselves, we can only drift, increasingly helpless to summon even the will to resist predators and tyrants, let alone the capability to do so. Joel Barlow, political theorist of Jefferson's time, wrote tellingly, "The disarming of citizens has a double effect. It palsies the hand and brutalizes the mind. A habitual disuse of the physical forces totally destroys the moral force, and men lose at once the power of protecting themselves and of discerning the cause of their oppression." We live with recent history of massacres by governments that have dwarfed in scope the cruelty of anything Barlow or Jefferson could have imagined. The Turkish massacre of the Armenians, the Nazi final solution, the Soviet purges, the killing fields of Cambodia, the Hutu-Tutsi massacres in Rwanda. Each and every one of these vast and hideous slaughters was preceded by and relied upon by the disarmament of victims. It is more important than ever today, after a century of blood, that we retain the power both to protect ourselves and to discern the cause of such oppressions. That cause has never been in civilian arms borne by the free people, but in their opposite and enemy, the organized and conscienceless brutality of cancerous states. It's time to recognize that we, as individuals and citizens of our neighborhoods and nations and our planet, have gone too far down a road that leads only to disintegration of both society and self, a future of atomized and alienated sheep, terrified by the reflection in each other's eyes of the phantoms in their own souls. Easy prey for demagogues and dictators. It's time for each of us to rediscover the dignity of free men and free women in the only way possible, by proving it in the crucible of the daily decision, even on ultimate matters of life and death. It is time for us to embrace bearing arms again, not merely as a deterrent against criminals and tyrants, but as a gift and a sacrament and an affirmation to ourselves. Folks, we'll be right back.
Don't miss a minute of the action. Check out the podcasts at www.kcaaradio.com. The station that leaves no listener behind, AM 1050 KCAA.
Tom O'Halloran has a not-so-common core spelling lesson for the Obama administration. Ready? There is no K in America.
There's kids that can't pray in school, $100 tanks of gas. I can tell you right now, this country ain't supposed to be like that. No, that ain't my America. That ain't this country's roots. You wanna slam all on the Sam, but I ain't letting you. Yeah, I'm mad as hell, and you know I still bleed red, white, and blue. They ain't us, and that ain't my America. Oh no, that ain't my America.
Welcome back, my friend. This is Patriot Radio. I appreciate you sticking with me through that essay. I'm not fond of reading stuff, but I've just absolutely loved that essay, and I think it's probably one of the most intelligent essays I've ever read. I wanted to share it with you. A couple of notes. We are looking at the Mississippi election. It's real tight, but it looks like the incumbent Cochran is still up by 1 point with about 85% of the vote, actually 95% of the vote counted. So it looks like the Tea Party guy, McDaniel, 49.2%, and the incumbent, 50.8%. That's a sad thing. The incumbent had actually sent out a bunch of email or letters asking Democrats to come out and vote for him. If that doesn't say rhino, what does? Needing the Democrats to vote for you so you can hold on to your seat. Cochran, you're a piece of trash. You should be driven out with the snakes. Our first block, we were talking about the kids coming in and being rounded up and being wards of the state. Let's revisit that for just a minute. Part of the leftist agenda for America, and this goes way back long before Obama was ever in politics, but the Democrats went by socialists. Their party's been communist off and on. There are several members in the Democratic Party that are actual communists, and it's a record. It's not a rumor. There are documents showing this stuff. But part of the goal for the way left people is to destroy the family way, to destroy the family unit. That parents don't really have what it takes to raise families. We're going to make the state the guardian. With 65,000 kids under your umbrella, gives them a real leg up on this. These kids are being put in places where they're being taught lessons. I mean, even our public schools in certain areas are teaching them not only to be nice to gay people, but they're teaching them about sexuality. You don't have to like Susie because she's a girl. It's okay for you to kiss Billy. These are kids. They've got no business being taught this kind of stuff by the government, by anybody, but certainly by the government. But now we've got 65,000 kids coming in that are being taught this kind of stuff. And it is being taught. It is being taught. And it's a very communist mindset. The state will take care of you. You'll get an equal wage with everybody else because the state will take care of you. Okay, moving on. Up in Washington, D.C., new taxes. They say there aren't going to be any new taxes, but by golly, they come out and they get you. Now you want to take a yoga class? There's a tax on that. Well, obviously, because the government has so much to do with it, right? Yoga taxes is a wellness tax. It'll add $60 to $80 a year to most people's budgets. If you want to go to a gym, a yoga class, or just a fitness center, stand by for that, because that's a new one. Do things seem normal to you? I mean, is this America? Is this the America that you're used to? I mean, it's insane. We've got America making friends with our enemies, arming the people that are trying to kill us, ignoring our soldiers that come back wounded, looking for health care, letting them die while they wait to get an appointment. Meanwhile, we're giving free health care to anybody that comes across the border and says, I'm an illegal. I saw a political cartoon the other day of a veteran crossing the border into Mexico and then walking back and saying, my name's Jose, I need medical care. It's sad. It's sad. America has no allies overseas. We basically turned our back on Israel, on Egypt, who is a strong ally, while we're sucking up to the Iranians and the Taliban and Al-Qaeda and ISIS, all the people that are set to destroy us, who are intent on destroying us. These people coming across the border, they're not just Mexicans. They're not even just Mexicans and Colombians and Nicaraguans, Hondurans. They're coming across, they're Middle Easterns, they're Chinese. They're coming across from everywhere. And the Border Patrol is being taken off the border. They're being taken off the border to go to these hostels, the army base where these kids are being held. They don't have people on staff. Our Border Patrol is now over there changing diapers and warming bottles. Not complaining. Better than being shot at. Mexico's shooting at us from the other side of the border. Not apparently to hit the Border Patrol, but the few guys that are out there are being harassed by bullets from the other side. Folks, it's a mess. Get on the phone, make some noise. It's time to let your representatives know that you are mad as heck and you're not going to take it anymore. Because there's a lot of people out there intent on destroying us, and if we don't stop it now, it's going to be a loss. Good night, America. God bless you and yours. This is Tom O'Halloran. I'm out.